So how can you develop trust? Not only develop trust, we're going to actually talk about continuing to not only get more people to trust you, but also what happens when trust is broken. How do you repair trust? How do you do really everything about trust? This book has been really powerful for our book club. It's by Dr. Henry Cloud, Trust. If you have not seen the first part of this, we actually went through the first 8 chapters. We went through the first 8 chapters, which talked about the 4 critical elements of trust and 5 different ways that you can build and develop trust, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur, being a leader, being somebody who wants to impact and get people to take action. It all starts by getting them to trust you. And good morning, everybody. Good morning. By the way, Shelly, welcome to our inner circle, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, guys. So we're going to dive into this book. If you don't know, we have a business leadership book club. I'm going to leave you the link in the show notes in the description below. If you just came upon this video for some reason and you're like, I really enjoy it. By the way, wait until the end to really make a decision there. And hey, Amber. Hey, Tina. Definitely join us inside of our app where we take powerful books and we see how it applies to our business and personal life. And this book specifically is Trust. The next one that we're reading is The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest, W-I-E-S-T. Another really powerful book. We do this all inside of the app. It's completely free to be a part of the book club. And then, of course, we have our Inner Circle team who's here. Tina's here. Shelly's here. Appreciate you guys so much for being here, for being active participants in the Inner Circle, which is basically our tight-knit community that takes some of the things that we've learned from our book club, really packs it into a really action-packed bi-weekly calls where we can help workshop. We can help break these down specifically for you and for your business and give you some extra help and support. If you want to know anything about that, you can just click the join button after this video, and you can learn a little bit about our YouTube community. That being said, let's dive right into the book. Amber and Tina, good morning, everybody. I know I already said good morning, but good morning, good morning. Okay. So what we're doing is we're diving into part 3, which is chapter number 9. It's growing in trust. Now, here's the thing. If you saw the first video, we spent a lot of time really thinking about what these 4 elements of trust are, and it has helped me out exponentially even to this day, just having read it last month. It has been a game changer. If you have not seen that, definitely hit that up. We spent a lot of time going through those chapters. Today, we're going to literally blast through the rest of the book because the rest of the book is, I feel like, a personal roadmap to help not only build your trust muscle, but also be able to repair it if you come into some difficulties. That being said, I want to make sure that if you do have a issue related to trust, that you actually pick up this book. I don't really do it full service here. It's literally feels like a blueprint on how to get, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business situation, whether it's a personal situation, to really get your trust back on track. But today, we're going to be taking just the things that really spoke loudest to me and also listening to the things that spoke loudest to you. And we're going to start on chapter number 9, which is building your trust muscle. It's on page 123 if you're in the book with us. Now, one of the things that he talks about in this chapter is he says we still have to choose to take the step to trust, and it always entails risk. He had a story in this where he was on a flight with someone and he got into conversations with them, and the guy was like, I don't trust anyone. And he's like, well, why are you in this airplane? Why are you eating that food? Why are you driving in cars? Because if you're driving in a car, you're trusting that everybody else in the car is going to be driving safe. If you're in an airplane, you're trusting the pilot to make sure that he flies off, takes off, does all the things he's supposed to do, right? If you're eating food, you're trusting that the person didn't put salmonella or something in it. And so there's a part of life that you have to experience and have this the ability to trust, which means that there's always going to be some risk that's going to be entailed. It's just understanding that really gives us that power, right? And when we're in business, or when we're joining a program, or when we're buying something or somebody else is buying something, there is always a risk. And yes, we can limit that risk as much as possible, but there's always going to be a risk. So really thinking about it I want to make sure that there's no risk with this. That's not real life. Real life it comes with risks. You have to be willing to lean in. You have to be willing to learn how to trust the right people, which is what we're doing here and learning inside of this book, but knowing that it all comes with this potential opportunity to take you down the wrong path. It's just the way that it works, and you have to be willing to accept that risk to some degree. It doesn't mean you should accept the risk for everybody. It just means you should look at the things that we discussed in this book today and also the ones we did last time to be able to see, is this person trustworthy, and should I take that next step, okay? Now, he says someone can be trustworthy. This is a highlight for me. But if I am limited in my ability to trust them, I will miss out on a lot of life. Not because others are not trustworthy, but because I cannot trust very well because my own issues with trust. We sometimes hear that people have trust issues, meaning that their trust muscle needs to be repaired, healed, or even built up for the first time. And when we say that, it usually is talking about there being a problem that which caused these trust issues. So what kind of like comes up for me is, as I'm reading this, is he talks about like, first off, like you have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to take a risk to actually trust somebody. But if you've had somebody who has taken you down the wrong path and now they're untrustworthy, you can't put a blanket, now everybody else is untrustworthy on it, because then you'll lose out on great opportunities to trust people who really should be trusted, that would really help you take your life to the next level. And being willing to lean in and understand that there is a risk, but weighing all of the things that we talked about in the book is going to help you make that decision. But to some degree, some of us do have like damaged trust muscles, and we have to get back on track to trusting people, but making sure that we learn from the lesson that we kind of took away from there. Now he says, breaking your trust barriers. So how to actually build up that trust muscle. He says, all our developmental equipment is not alike. We all have different experiences, and some end up more secure than others. These experiences can lead to different kinds of attachment styles. While there are various names given to these by various researchers, I find these descriptions to be helpful. So what he's talking about depending on people, dependency, all right? And there's different types of dependency, kind of like trust issues that people can run into. And he says you really just need to know your type of style of person that you are, so that you can be aware of some of maybe the pitfalls that you actually can have. He said the first one is a secure attachment style. He says when a person has great needs that are not responded to well, they learn a different lesson. I can't depend on anyone. The outside world has nothing for me. So let's see. He says, what I've described in the good scenario above is referred to as a secure style. People who are equipped with this attachment style tend to be capable of uninterrupted attachments to those later in life because their equipment is solid and in place. They move towards others when they need something with the expectation that others will be there for them. They are consistent in their trusting relationship and depend on others well. On the other hand, when a little person has great needs that are not responded to well, they learn a different lesson. I can't depend on anyone. The outside world has nothing for me. They withdraw and detach from needing others, developing I'm going to do this solo style. When they do depend on others, they act out of great fears, which gets in the way of having functioning, trusting relationships with others. Their relationships are riddled with disruptions as they try to avoid vulnerability or act out fears that come from the inability to trust another person. So this talks about the type of person who, when you're struggling with something, you reach out to someone you trust and you know that they're going to be there and they're going to be able to help you. And then the other type, which is not the secure attachment type person, is the type of where you're like trying to do everything on your own. You don't want to trust anyone. You can't trust anyone because like they're going to do you wrong, or there's something's going to happen in the and there's going to be too much risk for you to kind of like take here. And one of the things you'll see is that as you go through the book club, we have this survey that asks you to fill out, and the last question is. Like, what do you need help with, right? And one of the things at the end, it says, I'm a lone ranger. I'm trying to figure it out on my own. Can I tell you how many people we have, even in our book club, who want to do it on their own? And I'm like, oh, they've got some trust issues, which guess what? That's why we're reading this book, guys. That's why we're reading this book, because I'm like, so many people have these things of like, I got to do it on my own. But in reality, it's because they either don't trust someone or they don't want to be uncomfortable and let other people know that they need help. Help is a form of weakness. And so that's one of the things that I called out to on that actual form, because when people click that, I'm like, okay, this is something that would really help them to dive into this book. The next one is the anxious attachment style. If people have what is called the anxious attachment style, they fear abandonment and they're needy and very clingy. So they can be very needy and very clingy. The next one is the avoidant attachment style. It says they basically throw avoidance at everything. Anytime that any type of potential trust thing kind of like comes up, or they could have the opportunity of trusting somebody, they avoid it at all costs. It's their version of defense. The fear avoidant attachment style. He says this is also a fearful avoidant. People in this category want a trusting connection with others, but they avoid it at the same time. It can be a chaotic in a way where they're craving trust and want connection with others while simultaneously moving away from them. It's kind of like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Needless to say, I'm not going to go into all the different ones that he has here, but it just talks about like being able to identify what type of style of person you are and what type of style of truster you are is going to help you in the future. I know for me personally, I'm the type who I trust a lot of people. Kurt will yell at me often and saying, why are you trusting this person like you literally just met them? But that's kind of like how I am is I'm open to trusting people in the beginning. However, when you lose my trust, like you almost never get it back. I don't know. It's just something that for some reason I haven't figured out a way of being able to work through that yet. But I'm the kind of person where I trust a lot of people. But then if people lose that trust, then they never get any additional help or support or anything from me in the future. It's definitely something I'm working on. As I'm reading through this book, I found plenty of ways that'll be able to help me through that. So another thing that I had highlighted in this one is when we find ourselves struggling to trust, the problem isn't always that the other person or entity is not trustworthy. Sometimes it's just our own attachment style. So really thinking about this in terms of when you feel like somebody is untrustworthy and you can't trust them and you're the type of person who pushes people away, asking yourself, is this about them or is this about me? And sometimes you'll find out it'll be about them. Sometimes you'll find out it'll be about you. And it just gives you that piece of awareness. Okay, chapter 11, he says, Breaking Your Trust Barriers, part 2. This one was really, really, really long. I did have a highlight here. It says, the fear that comes from seeing the world as an unequal place destroys a lot of trust. He says, embracing our issues and finding the healing we need is the first step of growth, and it's vital to building trust. So if your trust has been destroyed, he says, embracing our issues and finding the healing is the first step to growth. The point of this chapter and the previous one can be summarized in this way. To make healthy and good decisions as to whom we will trust, we need to have healthy trust equipment. So work on yourself as well as evaluating others. Just don't think that it's about others that you don't trust them. Sometimes it could be about us and some of the trust issues that we've had in the past. I know we have a lot of life coaches who are here on this channel. You understand how the subconscious mind works. But a lot of times we can have like a limiting belief that kind of pops up because somebody else has broken that trust. And now it's kind of like something that's inside of us that feels a little bit broken. And it's not that you're broken. It's just that we have to process it. And once we're able to process it, then we can move forward with trusting people again. Ooh, chapter number 12. He says, it's a process. He says, trusting again, once trust has been broken, is more than a decision. It's a dilemma, a choice between equally unfavorable options. Do I not trust this person again and never have this person in my life and never experience any more relationships with them? Or do I trust them again and have the opportunity of like being hurt again? That's kind of like a really powerful question to ask yourself, but it is a process. It's not something where you're like, hey, immediately I'm just going to start trusting this person again, right? You have to be able to build it up. And he has steps in here that we're going to go through real quick on how you can actually build that trust back up, all right? He says, whenever you are, and by the way, this is really an important thing too, is like, this could be like a relationship trust. I don't know. That's what always pops into my mind, but it could also be like a business trust. It could also be like, joining somebody's program or somebody joining your program, or even like social media, like losing trust in someone. I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but like, there's always like things that happen with celebrities for some reason, and they have to come out and make like an apology video and stuff like that, because when you lose the trust of the people that you are there to help and to support and you're showing up for, like, they're not going to be willing to like listen to you and to take those next steps, right? So this isn't just about relationships. This is about all of these things and what you can do when that trust has been broken, right? So step number 1 is heal from what happened to you. When you're betrayed, you need time and healing. And he goes through some of the different ways of like having time and healing. But this also means that if you break someone's trust, they need time and healing. Try not to force it on them, because it's not going to be they're not going to be processing it. They're either going to, run the opposite direction or just not be able to process it and come back in and put themselves in the same exact situation. So the first move is to heal from what happened to you. Step number 2 is move beyond anger and revenge and turn towards forgiveness. He says, if you're going to be your best, healthiest, and highest performing self, you must forgive. Forgiveness is the way to set yourself free from betrayal. Otherwise, you'll be tied to it and trapped to it for the rest of your life. Forgiveness certainly is a gift to give someone who has hurt us. But when we give it, we enable them to not punish themselves for their wrongdoing, and sometimes, as we shall see, open the possibility of a future relationship unsustained by past failures. This is one of the things that we talk a lot about in our life coach certification, is like being able to process pain and doing it in a way where when you are, like, let's say you go through a situation and, you've lost that trust, or somebody, basically you no longer trust that person. Or they've done something that you feel is like has been wrong to you. At the first time that it happens, it's like, it's always going to be normal that you're going to experience that feeling, right? But every single time you think about that situation after that, you kind of like hurt yourself again and again and again. And there's a part to processing this where actually you're just sitting in it and not running from it, which a lot of people either typically run or fight through it. And there is a part to processing it, but there's a difference between like pain and suffering. So pain is you experience that thing once and you process it. Suffering is you take that thing with you over and over and over and over and over again. One of the things that comes up for me is when he's talking about forgiveness in here, is like that's the greatest gift that you can give yourself. Because when you don't forgive, they don't care. They don't know what's going on in your brain. They're not beating themselves up over it. It's us beating ourselves up over it. And we're basically giving them even more power than when they originally, had that betrayal against us. So really, I can really see what he's talking about in here, where it's like being able to process that and be able to move through it on the other end, and being able to forgive that person is not so you can get them back into your life. That's not what he's saying. It's because when you forgive them, then you don't have to continue to beat yourself up with the thoughts that you have over and over and over again about that betrayal. Okay, he said step number 3 is ponder what you really want. So thinking about this and thinking about if I do repair this trust, what is like the best case scenario? He says, what is the best outcome that we could imagine together? And really thinking about, is this something that I truly want? Do I want to go through what it takes to rebuild this, or do I not? And being clear on what you specifically want. Step 4 is figure out if a reconciliation is available. He says reconciliation is returning a relationship to good standing. It does not automatically include that you need to trust the other person to move forward, although it may evolve into that. It is simply forgiveness on your part, plus the other person apologizing and owning what they have done, so you can return to a good, forgiven place, no matter what you decide to do in the future. I think that last part is like so critical. He has a story in here that he shared about somebody who was unwilling to apologize for what they did. They're like, no, I just feel like this is just the right thing to do. And so in here, I think he made the recommendation to one of his clients that you can make a decision if you want to trust them again. But if they did something wrong against you and they don't even see that it's wrong, and you've had conversations, you've been open, you've shared with them, and then in the end they're like, no, I don't see that I did anything wrong. He's like, you really need to think about like whether or not you want to continue with that relationship, because having it happen again is highly likely because the person doesn't even feel like they've done something wrong. So that was step number 4. Step number 5 is assess trustworthiness to determine if trust is an option. He says, after you've taken the first 4 steps in the process of repairing trust, it's time to take step 5 and determine whether the option of rebuilding trust with the person who betrayed you is viable. The way you do this is to use the 5 essentials of a trust as a guide. These elements of trust are just as helpful in knowing if you can trust someone once again as they are in determining whether you can trust someone in the first place. They are the same. Trustworthy elements are the same moving forward as they are in the beginning. So, these are, number 1, understanding the other person, what the other person needs and how they feel. Number 2, having a motive and intent for the other person's welfare. So do they have a motive for your welfare? Number 3 is having the abilities and capacities to deliver what is promised. So can they actually repair it and moving forward, not do that thing again? Number 4 is having the character and personhood to meet the trust requirements, meaning is the person based off of where they are, or are they getting help for developing their character into the type of person to meet the requirements that you ask of them so that you can trust them again? And number 5, building a track record that is a trustworthy pattern. So are they now on the road, on the path of now doing the things that are in alignment with your trust, and they're doing it consistently, and they're building up that roadmap back into being trusted by you? And he says when all those things are, Then you can move on to step 6, which is the same thing. It says assess the trustworthiness to determine if trust is an option. But he says this is where you can kind of like make a decision on whether to move forward or not. He says, when there is a breakdown in trust, a review of the relationship usually shows that the elements never were fully present in full. One or more of them failed or were too weak. And because of that, your repaired trust must be often the first time the essentials of trust have fully been at work in the relationship. Often when people loop back on a broken trust situation, they see huge gaps in the relationship over time in one or more of the 5 essentials, which is understanding, motive, ability, character, and track record. But the gaps went unnoticed, or someone didn't pay attention to them, or they were overlooked or not given the weight they should have. Many times it could have been too fearful to really address them. But when you come back into the relationship, it is now time to address them. To address, does the person understand you and where you're coming from? Do they have a good positive motive about what they're going to be able to, or what you two are going to be able to accomplish together, whether it's in the business or personal life? Ability, do they have the abilities to be able to deliver on that level of trust? Character, are they building up their character? Are they learning new skills now to be able to help them so that they don't, destroy that trust again? And then track record, are they starting to build that track record? One of the things he talked about in here was somebody who was like going to some type of therapy, some type of AA or NA, something related to that. Some of them was like related to like affairs, going and understanding like sex addiction, stuff like that. These are things where if you see the person is taking action and steps towards building up their character and their skills, he said, then that is a good indication that they might be somebody that you can trust. Again, not a full on, oh, well, I absolutely can trust, but seeing their track record. Are they showing up for those things? Are they taking action, right? This is the same thing with us when it comes to like building trust on social media, right? And when we're able to trust on social media, number one is, do we, or building trust on social media, do we like, does the other person know that like, or do we know about our clients and the person that we're trying to help? What is our intent like? Do we have a motive of actually wanting to help them, right? Ability. Do we have the ability to actually be able to help them, right? Have we developed that ability? Number 4 is character. Do we have the character that tells them that, hey, we are here for them. We're here to help them. We're here to make an impact. I also feel like under character comes core values. It's the reason why on our channel, Modern Leadership, like we talk about business, but we also talk a lot about family connection and your physical and mental health. Because when you think about like the character of a specific person, if they have the core values that you have, it's much easier to begin to trust them because they're like you, right? And then the last one is track record. Have you built up enough track record that you can actually get people to trust you and to take that next step? I mean, we see so many people who just start like their business and, I'm coaching them and understanding first off, they haven't even talked to their potential clients in terms of like what they're wanting and needing the most right there. They're kind of like trying to think in their mind what their clients are going to want. Their motive is generally good. Like most of the people that I attract are generally family first, entrepreneurs who are like want to make a huge impact in the world. So that one's usually pretty easy. Ability, a lot of them have so much great ability. I mean, I see all of you guys who are here right now, and every single one of you guys has incredible ability to be able to help people achieve. Character, some people are very nervous about it. Some people lack a little bit of confidence, but I truly believe that the character from the people who are here on our Modern Leadership YouTube channel are people who are family-centered, want to make a huge impact in the world, and want to do so without burning themselves out. And then track record. A lot of people don't have a track record yet. They come and they do social media posts every once in a while. Maybe they'll talk about their business every once in a while. And it's like sporadic. So the track record is that when somebody comes to see you and they see on your page and you're like, let's say you're trying to help them grow a business or connect better with their family, and they see you like once a month, you haven't really built up that track record of like, hey, I'm here and I'm still going to continue being here. And as long as you continue to be there, you're going to build up that track record so that when somebody's like, hey, I really want to build a business I love while also connecting more with my family, they're going to be like, they get into a problem today and they're like, I want to be able to do that. And they see me popping up in their newsfeed, or they see somebody like over time, like really building up this track record. The chances of them reaching out to that person and wanting to get their help is much higher than somebody who's like, I see this happen a lot, like health and fitness coaches, where a health and fitness coach will talk about their transformation for like a week and then like 6 weeks not even talk about anything, sometimes never even show up. And then they're like, I'm back in business, guys. And it's like, you're not having a really healthy a road track record or a roadmap to be able to get people to like find you. But also, like, if you guys take a break, you're allowed to take a break. Just don't announce it to the world of on social media. Hey guys, I'm taking a break from my business. It's definitely not helpful for you, but it's also not helpful for building trust. Okay. Step number 7. Okay. So this is step number 7. Look for evidence of real change. He said the big question, and one that most troubles people in the process of repairing trust, is the should I keep going question. They simply want to know if they can truly trust the change process the other person is engaged in and whether it can be fruitful. They don't want to be hurt or betrayed again. He says, know this, no one can predict the future. There are no guarantees that the other person will always be trustworthy. The only one who can assure trustworthiness in the future is the one who broke the trust in the past. That's right. The person who broke your trust decides whether or not to earn your trust going forward. Their behavior will make the determination. All you need to do is observe it, watch from the bleachers, so to speak, and you do not have to be a fortune teller. You have to be an observer of their behavior. This one is incredibly important, guys. I was reading this and I'm like, this is so true. And basically, he has a list of a bunch of different things that are what people would term intuition, that is basically telling you whether you should or should not trust this person again. Like, this is something that we do a lot in our life coaching session. I was actually just talking to Shelly about this this morning. And that is like when intuition kicks in. Intuition, I had an intuition expert on the podcast. And what he was talking about is he said intuition is kind of like, people say it's a gut feeling. But a lot of times it's behaviors or things that we see on the outside that our brain interprets that we don't even know that it interprets. And it gives us this gut feeling that's like, oh, should I trust this person? Should I not trust this person? Should I do this? Should I not do this? And it's one of those things where, yes, you can have a gut feeling, but he's saying like the best part is for you to look to see on the outside what is actually triggering that intuition or that gut feeling. I'm going to give you a perfect example. This one's really easy because it's in police work. So back when I was a police officer, I could have a feeling of somebody's going to run from me and I need to set up like and approach them in a good enough position because they're going to run and I know they're going to run, and I could limit the ability of having to fight for them or having them from running. And I don't know why, I would just have like this instinct of like, somebody needs to get over there and stand right next to that guy because he's like going to run. He looks like he's going to take off, right? And when I started to like think about like, what was it about that? Like, I'm not a superstar when it comes to like intuition. Then I started to realize like the people were like looking around back and forth, and they were like making just like weird overt movements, and they were just the way that they were acting. You could see that they were like, I want to stand in a place that I can just take off anytime that I need to, right? And those things were actually outside behaviors that I could actually internalize, intuitively see, oh, so that's the reason why. And so that's kind of like what he's talking about here. Is he's like, when you see or have that gut feeling about trust, and this could be like when you're beginning to trust someone, or, it could be like if you're trying to regain that trust from someone, or somebody's trying to regain your trust, watch for the actual activities, the behaviors, the things that people are doing. Because like they say, like action speaks louder than words, and being able to see those, it'll help you so that you don't pretend like they don't exist, right? And he talked a little bit about this, and it's actually in the next section moving forward. It's like just pretending that things don't exist, or just pretending like, oh, it'll be okay, without actually having any concrete, tangible things, sets you up for being for going down the path of mistrust again. All right. So here's chapter number 20. He says, how to not make the same mistake again. He said, I could write an entire book about reasons we misplace trust, but for space purposes, I will simply lead you through 5 of the most common reasons people fall prey to the toxins of untrustworthy people with the immune system as our model. So how to avoid being in saying yes to trust someone again, when these 5 things could potentially actually be showing you that it's not time to trust them again. He says, number 1, he says, some people do not have their equipment was never installed. So he talks about like, much like the immune system was installed, and some people, the immune system was not installed. Some people don't have that ability to be able to decide if they should or shouldn't trust people. They just blanketly either trust everyone or trust no one. He says people from abusive backgrounds often tend to be set up to trust abusive people in familiar patterns. So if you've seen your parents, or you've been put in a situation before, and that has just become just a normal part of what you think life is, when you get into the next situation, It could very well just be another abusive background or another abusive relationship, but it just feels normal for you because of your past experiences. Number two is we don't learn from experience. So you learn from experience, and he says experience. I really tend to think it's pain. And that is like when you learn from, of course, what works, but also what doesn't work. For me, it seems to always come from what doesn't work. Those are the most painful that get me to take different actions. That it's all about like learning from that process. Like instead of just blindly trusting people again, asking yourself, well, how did I ignore the signs, and what can I do to put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? So it's kind of solving the problem in advance. He said number three is lack of boundaries and boundary setting skills. So some people are very much like people pleasers. He says the immune system is our bodies, is to our bodies what boundaries are to our hearts and minds. He says being able to talk about something that bothers us quickly keeps problems from growing larger and prevents us from trusting people who are not trustworthy. So setting a boundary that if this happens, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to have this conversation and I'm not going to ignore it. Very, very hard thing to do, but it's something that you can do to avoid losing that or getting that trust destroyed again. He says learning not to repeat mistakes of misplaced trust is about learning from experience. He said this is called wisdom. And then he said number five. Number five is a lack of tribe, markers, supporters, and fighters. And really, that's why we have this group here, right? It is when you don't necessarily have a tribe, a group of people to really help bounce ideas off of, to really help build that trust, to figure out how to grow a business, to figure out how to connect better with your family. It's very easy to remove yourself from that equation, right? To not have access to that level of not only growth, but of people. And one of the things that he talked about in here is when somebody is an untrustworthy person, they will typically not want you to even be around a tribe or a supporters or team like that, because they know, well, if this person were to get connected with that, then they would definitely not trust me, right? And so sometimes it's that weird and awkward feeling of like somebody trying to seclude you and for you to be by yourself and for you not to have conversations and for you not to talk to people. I mean, to be honest, like this is also one of the reasons why I don't like hard sales when I'm selling something. Like I never like when people do a hard sell on me where it's like, no, you got to buy right now or you never get to be a part of this. Now, I'm not saying it's the same as like urgency and scarcity where it's like, hey, take 3 days and then get back to me. Like I encourage that everybody in their business does that, because otherwise if it's an infinite timeline, that person's never going to take action. But also like trying to get somebody on to convince them right now they have to do it this very second or they're not going to be able to do this. Like that is like really aggressive and it's not my style of sales. My style of sales is more coaching and getting people to see if this is something that's going to be very helpful for them. And if it is, then I'll talk to them about what I can do. But if it's not something that's helpful, then I will either send them somewhere else. I'll send them to another coach. Because I want to make sure that I not only stay true to my core value of integrity, but make sure that I don't break trust with people. Because even if you break trust with people that aren't connected and aren't buying your stuff, you're still going to have people out there who are going to be talking trash. And in reality, they actually have something to back it up with, right? So instead of that, like thinking about how can I surround myself with other people who are in that, not only that I could be in that kind of environment, but for people who have those similar core values to me. And it might not be the same values that we have here. Maybe you're a Grant Cardone type of energy. Maybe you're Alex Hormozi type of energy. I mean, that's why there's the beauty of the internet is there have so many other people that you're able to connect with, right? But really being able to find and connect with a person that you trust is a true game changer. Because when you can trust them, you have the ability of like working together with other humans to achieve your goals even faster than you could on your own. All right. Wow. That was a lot. And here's what I have to say. Everybody who's here, I want to hear what your biggest takeaway was from this book. Dr. Henry Cloud, Trust. Really, really powerful book. Want to hear what is your biggest takeaway? I also want to ask you, based off of this, what are some things, maybe some adjustments that you're going to make when it comes to your business? And how does some of the things that you learned today actually apply to what you're currently doing right now? I know we talked a lot about like trust and trust issues and trust being broken and a lot of the universal principles related to not only rebuilding that trust, but being open to like stretching your trust muscle a little bit. But all of these things also apply to our business. They also apply to our connection with our family. They apply pretty much universally. And so thinking about this, and I'll just brainstorm this out loud while I'm waiting for some of you guys to type in the chat what of this spoke loudest to you. I feel like the part that spoke loudest to me was just the part about building trust. It was those 5 interconnected elements that really get me to see how I can not only build trust, but keep trust and do so in a way that feels like really, really in alignment to like the person that I want to become. This is basically the entire premise of the entire book is related to these 5 things, and those 5 things are incredibly important. And I'm going to literally keep them up on my my computer here so I can make sure that I continue to lean into them. It's the first one is understanding. So do you understand that person and where they're coming from? The second one is motive. What is that person's motive? Does that person actually want me to be able to help make an impact in my life? And it's the same for us. Like when it comes to us and our motive, do we have a motive of wanting to help other people? And are we actually leading with that, right? Number 3 is character. Is like, what is our character? Do we have the type of character that is willing to help people, that is willing to, not be, get angry and frustrated and do all those kind of things where it kind of like gets people to feel like they're not really, they don't really want to trust us because they don't believe that we have the character. There's the type of person that would over deliver, right? The next one is character, or let me see. We got character, motive. Next one is like I think it's follow through. Let me double check it one more time. Ability. Next one is ability. Do you have the abilities to be able to help the other person on the other end, right? If not, definitely continue working on developing that ability. And the last one is track record. Is like, do you have a track record that you're keeping up with? And when you're keeping up with that track record, are you showing people that you're the type of people that you want to trust? So once again, understanding, motive, ability, character, and track record. That's my biggest thing. Amber says, I really like the notion of repeating cycles. Like when we see certain things in our life, we carry that in adulthood, then we end up in the same situation. 100%, Amber, 100%. This is kind of like one of those things where people have potentially done this not only with relationships where they leave one abusive relationship and they get into another, but it's the same with work. Like if you have one career where people treat you like not nice and you get into the next career and you kind of take that with you, right? It's one of those things where we don't realize it, but it's because our trust muscle based off of the past and experiences that we've been through, like isn't functioning at the level that we need it to. And we just aren't aware of it, and becoming aware of it will help us to prevent us from being in that situation. But when you're by yourself and you're not getting any help from anyone, and you're not getting those people who on the outside, they'd be like, hey, that's not right. Maybe you should think about this, this, and this. Like if you don't have people like that, it's very hard for you to be able to figure it out on your own. Tina says, trust is such a hard thing for me. This book was helpful as I work on trust again. 100%, Tina. It's definitely, that's why he wrote such a big book. I got to keep this, just something I got to open up, on a more consistent basis. But definitely, I feel like it's also like the blueprint, not only for getting people to know, like, and trust you when it comes to your business on social media, but also rebuilding that trust, like in your personal life. Tina says, for my business, I do my best to always show up, good and bad days. I believe that showing up the hard days also helps to create more trust with potential clients. Yes, Tina, that's kind of like what the vulnerability piece comes from, right? And that's from Brene Brown talking about that, like dare to lead kind of stuff. And that is like you being vulnerable really does build trust with people, not because you're just like throwing out all your dirty laundry, but because you want them to see that you have gone through similar things that they have, that you have, everything isn't just easy and comes, automatic to you, right? And being able to work through that and being able to see you during those hard times and come out on the other end, it also provides a lot of hope for people. So I'm proud of you for doing that. And I know, Amber, you're doing the same thing. All right, guys, great job today. We will be diving into, actually, I just started this week, The Mountain Is You, definitely by Brianna Wiest. I think it's West, but it's Wiest. Definitely pop into the app. I posted a couple different pictures of some of my takeaways already, but I definitely look forward to seeing you guys on the next call, which we'll have at the end of March, going into probably only one call that we'll need for that book, because that book is kind of short. But I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you for leading from the front. Thank you for being willing to not only develop trust, but also really help people in the world, like Tina says, in a time when not everything's perfect. still, we're all struggling. We're going through it, but we know that by going through it, it actually makes us the type of person that makes it so much more possible to help someone else through it too. So proud of you guys for doing that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the Inner Circle and for our team. I appreciate you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you guys really, really soon. All right. Bye, everybody.